Welcome into this Friday edition of Sports Night. Bailey Burmaster joined alongside our lovely digital producer Ellie Parker.
Lovely.
Lovely. I'm on a positive vibe today. That usually never happens. I'm usually a negative Nancy, right? No, I'm kidding.
Usually this is the hater pair.
This is. We're petty over here. Remember I think we had a full discussion about being petty.
Yes.
Anyway, besides the point, we have a great show dialed in for you today. The Falcons hosting their second practice that's open for fans at the Benz. We'll hear from Terry Fontenot a little bit. Luke Jackson and Jorge Soler are back with the Braves back at Truist Park. Got quite the welcome in Game 1 against the Marlins, where they won 4-2. So we'll hear from them, talk about where the Braves are. Also, we're going to dive into the Olympics. I think Ellie and I are big fans of the Olympics right now, so we want to kind of go over what's been happening. Then there's
I have a surprise up my sleeve.
Yes,
for
and I'm flying blind with this, so we will see, and then we'll wrap up with what's on your mind. But let's start with the Falcons. Spent some time out there earlier this week. Good to see Grady Jarrett kind of getting back in the mix. Everyone's watching Kirk Cousins. Seems like his Achilles is doing fairly well. They're obviously going to monitor it and not push him too far, but Michael Penix Jr., also something people are watching. But I'll tell you what, when I was out there the other day, they did some red zone one-on-one drills with receivers against corners and whatnot, and Kyle Pitts looked like
Are they actually going to use him in the offense?
I think so.
Oh my God!
We have not seen it much in practice of Bijan Robinson being put in the pass game too much, but I could totally see that up the sleeve of Zach Robinson a little bit.
Okay.
But we'll see. We did talk to a lot of players, whether it was Drake London, Tyler Algier, about Zach Robinson and what he kind of brings to the table as an OC, and a lot of them said he was super relatable. Easy coach to just listen to and collaborate with. So, he is a younger coach in terms of, coaches that are in the league. So, it's cool to see him kind of lock in with those guys and hear what they have to say. We'll see what they're made of. Zach Robinson basically said that they weren't going to showcase anything during preseason.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't get too excited for those preseason games. I'd be shocked if Kirk Cousins really even plays any. So I do think that moving forward, it's going to be interesting. We'll have to wait till Game 1. But General Manager Terry Fontenot definitely took the podium and talked on an array of subjects. So let's tune into what he had to say.
Yeah, you truly are at a different point right now. And look, we have a lot of players. Not saying anything negative about the players that were here before, because a lot of those guys set the standard. Just for example, I'm at football practice a couple nights ago, and Deron Harmon lives here. His family lives here. He's got some sons playing football. And so I'm talking to Deron Harmon, and obviously Deron was here a few years ago, and Deron was a part of that. He's not with us anymore, but he was on the tail end of his career. But he had an impact on Richie Grant. He had an impact on A.J. Terrell. He still has relationships with those guys. So there are players that were here before that are no longer here, but really help lay a foundation. But we are at a completely different point. It is stressful right now looking at the board, because knowing that we're going to have to cut this down and we're going to have to keep 53 and then obviously 16 on the practice squad, when you're really looking at and you're counting them up and you're looking at all these big, powerful, athletic, pretty defensive linemen and thinking about how we're going to really cut this thing down, how we're going to figure it out. So it's a good problem to have right now, where sometimes you look at your roster and say, okay, we're really going to have to go outside. We're still looking outside at the other 31 teams. Trades, we're still looking. We just had a workout, and we're constantly looking. But I would say compared to 3 years ago to where we are now, it's going to be really challenging to cut this roster down. We're very, very excited about where we are right now, and it's not just the actual players and what we're seeing on the field, but man, the culture here right now. We have real, true leadership here, and when you look at the Grady and David and Jesse and AJ and Kirk, and we have so many leaders, Jake, Chris, and leaders that they're multipliers. They want to make people around them better as well. So what we like about the team is the balance that we have. We have the right veterans. We have veterans, but then we have a lot of young players that are, again, you look at the D-line position, and you can't help it. Every time Grady, so yesterday, Rook does a one-on-one, and then right after, when you're watching the tape, the next play you're watching the next, and in the back of the frame you see Grady in the back working with Rook on his hand placement. And you see that at every but you see that at every spot. So when you have those veteran players that you feel good about and the right balance of young players that are really helping them grow, that's what you really get excited about. And we're always looking multiple years out, so you want to make sure you have players that are going to really be impactful, help you right now, but you have those developmental players too, and guys that are going to help them continue to develop.
You spoke about the staff, how they came together behind the scenes with everything with the storm, but then you see the players come out and the coaches come out and they do what they did today. Like, how proud of you?
Says so much about. I'm telling you, it's almost like when Raheem and Scar, they were sitting down. Again, this was about 7:15, and they're going through it. This is what we're doing, old school practice. We don't need film. We're just going, and they're so excited about it. And I'm not joking. I feel like when the lights came on, they were kind of let down, like, oh, the lights are back. It's easy. And all this stuff that Jake was doing, all the stuff that but nobody complained. Nobody complained. The players are in. They're getting their treatment that they need. They're getting ready to go, and they're getting ready to practice. Like, no one complained about it. So I think that's what's really impressive about this team and the resiliency we have.
Do you feel that from the fans, so especially selling out the tickets, the season tickets so early? I mean, do you feel a different excitement around that?
Really appreciate our fans. Like, love our fans so much, and the passion, the unwavering support. That's why it's cool. You hate what you do hate. If you say one negative about right now, you do wish that everything was done and we could have our fans out there on the hill every day. And, you know, I could tell Arthur when he came in yesterday, he was disappointed because the fans aren't there, and he knew they couldn't be here because of the construction. But still, you want them to be able to be here to see their team, and that's so important. And then it affects practice. It does. When we're out there at second year, there's a little bit extra when the fans are out there, and so that is important to see them. But very appreciative of them doing that. I have no doubt that we're going to have the best home field advantage because we're going to give them something to cheer for, and I know the passion that we already have. And then so when our team is up and playing well, and when we have those loud, crazy fans, it's going to be a hard place to play.
Terry, when you put 3 years of work on,
You couldn't get a seat, Wes? Can I let you sit down?
it's easy. When you put 3 years of work into building the team, and then you have an offensive and defensive systems change, you've gone through with Raheem and these guys coming in. How do you gauge it from your chair after OTAs, after mini camps, after first week of training camp? How do you gauge it now? Like, what's your part where you see it, and where do you want it to be 5 weeks from now?
Yeah, good question. Here's the good thing, and y'all just talked to Jimmy. Y'all talked to Zach several times, and so you can see the type of people they are. Like when somebody hadn't met Zach or Jimmy or obviously Raheem, and they asked about them, I tell them they're the type of guys that they're good football coaches. They would be successful in anything they did because of the way they think. So there is a system that Zach has and uses because he believes it's effective. There's a system that Jimmy has and he uses because he believes it's effective. But also there's versatility, and you're going to have some flexibility. And so you have your system and you have a clear vision of what you're looking for in every area, but yet you're going to figure out ways to make sure you get the most of your players. Like we talked about the defensive line position, there's not going to be Jimmy's not going to come in and say, okay, we can only have this many D-line and this many outside linebackers and this many. He's going to say, man, we got all these big physical dudes. I'm going to figure out a way to make all of them good. So I'll say all that to say is that we have a system and the guys are implementing it, and we know there's some differences, but when you have flexible, adaptive players like a Zach Harrison, where he's put on some weight and he's added some weight to play the position he's going to play right now, but he's a good football player. He's big, he's powerful, he's aggressive. AK, right? It's a little different now, and AK is doing some different things, but he can rush the passer, and that's what it's all about. So I would say where you worry about that a little more, Wes, is if you have rigid coaches that only want this, and that's where you see good players getting cut or getting moved on from. But I would say our coaches, we know they're going to get the most of what we have here.
So in finishing, real quick, is there, I got to be careful of what I want as opposed to what I need to complete this team?
Yeah, I guess just in terms of if a coach wants something specific that fits exactly what, I know what you're saying, but it's again, these where Raheem as well, they see the total picture, and so there's such good communication. And so anytime there's a player that could be available via trade or whatever it is, we sit down, we talk about it, and we really go through the process. Okay, this is going to be the fit. This is how he fits in what we do, and yet he's so impactful that I'm going to adapt and I'm going to do this to make it work for him because he's that good of a player. Or it's a player that, you know what, he's not going to move the meter enough for us to adjust things. So you can have those kind of conversations because there's such a good relationship throughout the building. Kyle and Tombo and Ryan and Ross, they do all a good job communicating with them, and there's such a good communication regarding that. But I would say that if we go get a player, regardless of the specific system he's coming from, if he can make an impact for us, then we can do it.
Follow up on that. I mean, even in the same idea of this, we're talking about role clarity as well, and that's something that Raheem has spoken quite a bit about. I'm curious, you're talking about this communication piece, the flexibility and the novelty of it all, but at the end of the day, how have you seen this staff, whether it be this front office and also this coaching staff, be very clear in what the expectation is for each guy in their role?
Yeah, very. It's been excellent because you have those communications as a staff, and then it filters down to a player to and then the player performance. Jake, everyone knows, everyone's on the same page in what we're talking about. So players know that, okay, Big Eddie Goldman, hey, Eddie, we want you to come back at this weight, and this is the position that you're going to be playing for us. It's very clear, and everybody can set. So everyone knows what the expectation is. No different if you're talking about a coach or a scout. There's very clear communication with those players. But again, from Raheem to the entire coaching staff, they're all such good communicators in that we're all on the same page. So we're all saying the same things to the players. So there's been a very clear, direct communication in that way, and it's been good.
Gary, you sort of touched on this. I hope I can explain my question as well. But obviously, you make the decision with Michael and thinking maybe we go get an edge rusher, but you don't, and you're trying to get back if you can. And then in free agency, it wouldn't look like you went and were able to get like an impact edge rusher. Claes didn't come back. And I'm curious, but obviously, it's one of the things you're kind of saying we're going to be stronger here, we'll be weaker here. Can you speak a little bit to the, I guess, the calculus of how you kind of position saying, okay, we may not be as strong as one edge, but if it, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but we're better here,
Yep.
all those things.
Yeah, Ken, absolutely. And we do look at it like, the whole, we're talking about the whole front seven, right? So, yeah, it'd be great to, a specific outside backer that's an impactful rusher. Be great to add a guy, and it'd be, but we look at it as a whole, and we like our front seven. But again, we talk specifically about outside linebacker and AK and Zoe Carter and Trice and Smith, and we got a lot of good players, D-Lo, that are really competing out there. But then you look at in the interior, and Grady, David, Rook, you keep Zach, TQ, Eddie. There's a lot of like big, powerful, athletic dudes. But then also you look at the inside backers, and where you can say that you have certain guys that are more so specifically. Nate's an old school thumper. That's what he is. But then when you look at guys like, that's the second one, guys. What are we doing? That's two strikes. But when you look at guys like Troy and Caden, they can line up outside and be really effective. And so we have a lot of versatility, I would say, up there. That doesn't mean if the right player comes available, we can add them at any position. But we do look at our front seven as a whole as very strong.
How do you see, when you kind of break down, you're talking about roster construction and everything, with the new kickoff roles, how that evolves what you guys are looking for the bottom turning of a 53-man roster?
Yeah, so it's a little bit TBD, and we have had with Marquise and Stephen King, and they've done a really good job. They've been anticipating this, so we're very prepared for it. But there is a little bit of TBD where we have a plan of exactly what we want to do and how we want to attack it as a return and in terms of the coverage. But we got to kind of see and feel this thing out of how it's really going to go. So there hadn't been a major. We're building the team the right way. We've always emphasized the kicking game in those areas. We want big, strong, physical players that can go play in the kicking game. But there's going to be a little bit of TBD with that.
So we will have the latest from their second open practice at Mercedes-Benz Stadium tonight at 11 if you want to tune in to Atlanta News First. The Braves also back in action with Game 2 against the Marlins at Truist Park tonight. It was the return of the old new additions to Truist last night. Before we talk about them, though, Ellie, I want to ask you a question. Trade deadline has come and gone. There was a lot of mixed emotions from Braves fans. A lot of people thought they should have went back out.
Fix Alex Anthopoulos' office calendar.
They wanted him to go out and get some starting pitchers because of the injuries. Now, to be fair, Ronaldo Lopez's injury didn't seem to be as severe as everyone thought what would be. He'll be back. Same with Max Fried, 15-day injured list, I believe, but he's going to be back. So maybe not as huge of a concern. Did you want them to go get a starting pitcher like everyone else?
Honestly, I thought starting pitching wasn't the problem.
Okay.
I thought it was offense. I think getting Jorge Soler, who has warmed up over the last couple months, was in a vacuum, getting a guy like that is a good move. Do I think that Jorge Soler, I think it's more of a nostalgia pick than anything.
Well, and a lot of people, there's that dichotomy between having Jorge and Marcel. If they're both going to DH, can one survive?
Can one survive in the outfield?
Correct.
Neither of them have played the outfield this
So,
season.
and Alex kind of said it in his Zoom that, he thinks there's space for both. We'll see how it all plays out. The good news is power hitting is back for the Braves.
Mm-hmm.
They've had a lot of homers the last couple of games. You have that crazy game where Matt Olson and Travis d'Arnaud went back
Matt
to
Olson's
back.
bat is back. Where has it been all season?
Yeah. Listen, better late than never, especially after All-Star.
But you're 8.5 games back in the Phillies, and the Mets are creeping up on you.
It's okay. Baby steps. Baby steps. But with Jorge Soler coming back, so is Luke Jackson. Both of them part of that 2021 team. Let's tune into what Luke had to say about his return with the Braves.
What was that feeling like, seeing all the guys yesterday in Milwaukee and kind of getting to catch up a little bit?
I feel like I'm in the twilight zone. I keep telling people that. It's so weird. It is a really amazing kind of to get to go back to a place that you played and spent some of my favorite years ever in baseball. So being back with some of the guys that are still here has just been kind of surreal.
You've been around this game long enough. You know that trade deadline, you could have a new spot.
Yeah.
If there was one to pick, is this the one you pick?
Yeah, when Farhan called me, he goes, listen, hey, you're getting traded, but you're probably going to enjoy where you're headed. And I was like, Atlanta? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, man, if there's one place to move in the middle of a season, I think coming back here was unmatched number one, the only place I'd like to come.
Luke, first of all, welcome back.
Yeah, excited to be back.
I can tell. So when you were getting traded and you were having to leave a place that was so special to you and you have a lot of really good memories, and then you get the call that you could be going back here, what was going through your head?
Yeah, I kind of you have a suspicion at trade deadline sometimes you can get moved, and I've been traded once in the off season, never in season, so never really had to deal with it. But happening, me and my wife were at dinner and just sitting down, and I actually didn't even think Atlanta was an option. I kind of didn't even have that in the back of my mind. I thought this bullpen's amazing. They've been amazing all year. They really don't need any arms, kind of thing. But I kind of was just sitting there, get a phone call, and find out I'm coming to Atlanta. I'm like, oh heck yeah! This is gonna be fun. I get to spend the last month and a half at home with the family in my own house, in my own bed, and play on an unbelievably great team with great fans for some of the best months that Atlanta can offer. You know what I mean? Weather here is going to be unreal, so I'm excited.
2021 obviously was a really special season, and you guys were able to do something that I know will stick in your mind for a very long time. But do you think this team, you haven't been here for too long just yet, but do you think you guys are capable of doing something really special?
This team is, I think what makes teams special in the playoffs are teams that kind of been there before and have done it. I remember our first years in 17, 18, 19, all going to the playoffs and just getting stomped and losing in the first round. And we couldn't figure it out. We thought we were great all year, and we'd win the division and then lose in the first round. And we're like, what's going on? And I think 19 losing to St. Louis, then 20 to the Dodgers, and just kind of be the third year in a row, get knocked down the first round, just sitting there, everyone looking at each other like, we're good enough. And this team knows that. There's a bunch of guys who are built and bred to play in the playoffs and see the teams that kind of go deep in the playoffs have been there before. And it's like Houston, LA, Atlanta. These teams have been there, and it takes a team that's been there, and a lot of these guys have been there, and they know what it takes and the grind that it takes and the big at-bats, the big innings pitch, the starts, all of it. And I think this team can really do that.
How much cooler does it come back with Solaire as well.
Yeah,
Back here.
we spent 15-hour travel day actually getting to Milwaukee, which was quite interesting. So we spent a lot of time together that day. But yeah, we were just kind of reminiscent, talking about it. And he's, he lives in Miami, so he's an East Coast guy, and he was excited to get back home as well. And just, I mean, we both had some magical years here and some magical moments. And I think you go anywhere that you can bring that, that shock factor back.
What do you think of the year that Solaire had been having? Do you kind of expect him to really take off here?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it to every hitter that goes to San Francisco. That place will belittle you. It's a hard place to hit. It's a great park. It is a great pitch. I mean, some day games the ball flies. I mean, it's something, but it is a harder place to hit. And I think when guys, kind of can get used to that and start to figure it out, I think he just started to figure it out as a, 90 games in. He was look at his numbers as of late. He's been unbelievable.'s an on-base monster. He's been hitting for power. He looks fantastic. Played great right field the other day. I know he hasn't played a lot of the outfield, but looks fantastic. And just a team that, was kind of figuring out their bearings there. We kind of batting all over the place, and now I think at a leadoff spot where he's going to be kind of solidified here, I think he's going to be a heck of a player.
I know you and your family are obviously very excited, but what's the reception been like from friends,
Oh.
from teammates, all that?
And insane. I think I still trying to go through my phone. The other day, my wife's like, "Hey, you haven't texted me back." I was like, I don't even know what's going on. I think my phone's broken. It's just so many people that just far and wide from the local area and just been around and meeting friends and making, just met over the years here, and workers, and Terry I got to talk to for an hour today. Just guys I've just spent a lot of time with that I've loved here, and just it's family coming back.
Cool, thanks.
It's probably not a game I don't watch the recap of, whether I played there or not, but did I follow a little bit extra closely in Atlanta? Always. These are some of my best friends. I don't think I've missed Minter's outings or Matzik's outings and Freed and these guys over the years. I just kind of keep up with those guys, and I won't probably miss Logan Webb's starts. I'll watch all his starts, and all my good friends over in San Fran these days. But it's just, I'm a baseball guy. I absolutely love it. I love watching good pitching. I love watching good hitting, and so just, not that I'm a fan from afar, but I'll always be a fan of good people, and I appreciate that saying that. He's, been a huge fan of his for a long time.
Yeah, he worked out yesterday before the game, and he looked good on the reads that he had. And I think the biggest thing, we're just going to have to get his legs back in shape. Got to be careful. It's going to be kind of a little bit like spring training, where he's going to have a day every now and then just to kind of regroup. And then once he gets, and then just talking to him, it's like once he gets over that, he wants to go every day. But it's just, in fairness to him and us, I think I'm going to check in with him every day, see where he is, and when he needs a day, we're just going to give it to him, just because looking at the big picture, it'll be good for us to make sure we have him whole there.
So what do you think it'll be like for the fans to see Jorge Solaire?
Yeah, I think it'll be good. I think they'll be excited. I was. Yesterday, and he's such a likable guy, and we have such good memories with him, and what he did for us, and always pulled for him from afar, and because, like I say, he's such a great teammate, and it's good. And he's been playing really good, so was excited to get him in there yesterday. Kind of like the look of that lineup with him at the top there again. Yeah, no, I kind of think that's tough sledding for a pitcher to have to navigate through that 3 and maybe 4 times, over the course of a game, and he's a presence, and what he does, and it does lengthen our lineup, and I'm kind of excited to get Witt in there too, what he can bring, and the veteran presence that he has, and what he does on the bases is really good also.
This felt like a really good road trip for Matt Olson. What did you see out of him?
Yeah, no, it's really encouraging, I'm happy for him. He's worked so hard at everything, and he posts up every day, and is the same guy. So that's really, like I say, it's very encouraging for him to have a road trip like that.
All right, let's talk some Olympics. 2 things I want to get to. The first one is Team USA women's 3x3 or 3x3, however you want to say it these days, they've struggled.
Both 3x3 teams are not doing well.
No, but the women have won 3 consecutive, Spain, France, and Canada. And in that Canada game, it went to overtime. And Atlanta Dream's own Ryan Howard, who hasn't had the best games while in
She's
France.
also coming off an injury.
Correct, so she's getting
in
back
all
into
fairness.
it. But in the overtime game against Canada, had a step back 3 to put it to bed. Pretty dirty. Very cool. Something I wanted to point out, because obviously Olympics, everything goes viral, some fun things. NBA Paints has been putting out some stellar things. They put out a Katie Ledecky meme, and it was just like
That's amazing.
a swim duck, like a duck swimming, and there was no one around her, because that's pretty much what Katie Ledecky does when she's in the pool. They also had Kevin Durant tweeted something about that. He believed that if you lobbed up a ball to Simone Biles, she could dunk it in the basket.
She is 4'11".
And he called her the goat in that. So the best part was NBA Paints made a goat dunking in a leotard
yes.
and making it Simone Biles, and it was very
Some
cute,
of the
very
some
funny.
of the some of the memes to come out of these Olympics have been great, especially at least for my social media feeds. The heroes have been the Turkish shooter and the South Korean shooter. The Turkish shooter is a 52-year-old who works in a small garage in Istanbul. He has no training regimen whatsoever.
No eyewear, no
eyewear,
earwear, just
no
there
ear
with his
protection,
gun.
nothing. This man raw dogs it.
Yep.
Just goes out there, shoots a perfect round, and leaves. The man won a silver medal.
Yep.
This man is an icon.
Amazing. And it's him. And is it the guy from Chinese that the memes are all about?
Yes.
The best one I saw, someone said offensive coordinators, being the man from Chinese, against defensive coordinators, which was the guy from Turkey. And I thought that was very funny. I was like, yeah, that's pretty on par with the NFL culture. What else are you paying attention to in the Olympics, Ellie?
The U.S. 4x400 mixed relay team set a world record in the first round. Got it done in 3 minutes, 7 seconds, and 41 100ths of a second. This is just the first round, so they're going to have to do it all over again.
Which I'm sure they probably could. They actually might even beat that, if that's where you're
Especially
setting the
since
bar.
the third runner screwed up a little bit. They were in the wrong spot before the relay, so they had to readjust
And then
go.
Yeah.
So if everything gets going and they keep that pace, we might beat it by just a little bit.
We shall see. Fun times ahead. Tomorrow, if you want to tune in, Team USA men's basketball, they get underway. I think it's 11:15. So they already have a spot in the quarterfinal, but last game of the group stage. All right, what is this mystery topic, Ellie?
Mike Trout got injured again.
Yeah, I'm
Tore
happy.
his meniscus, out for the season. This poor guy.
I'm happy I'm not an Angels fan, because just brutal. Brutal. Ever since he's got paid the big bucks, it's been injury season, kind of come back, injury season. It's just been very up and down. So very tough to see Mike Trout go through that. I know if you pay attention to anything, he went to AAA, but then was pulled from a game, and it was very weird. It kind of like wasn't sure, things weren't feeling right, and now this comes down. Not great for Angels fans or Washington.
Yeah. All right. We're ending on a bit of a somber note with what's on your mind, because what's on both of our minds is Freddie Freeman's 3-year-old boy Maximus going through some medical difficulties right now. He has a neurological disorder, and while I don't have the same neurological disorder, I do have a separate one, and neurological disorders in general are terrifying.
Yeah.
And you just have to hope that the kid pulls through.
Yeah, Freddie's stepped away a little bit because of family emergency. Him and his wife have both posted on social media how hard these days have been, but they're optimistic that he will make a full recovery. Obviously, fans here have a tie to Freddie Freeman from his time with the Braves, so sending lots of love and prayers that way that he ends up pulling it out. With that, we'll end this edition of Sports Tonight. Make sure to join us next week. For Ellie Parker, I'm Bailey Burmaster. You guys have a great night.